Dinosaur myths. Welcome guys once again to the channel Ranking with Dinosaurs, where we rank, you guessed it, dinosaurs. And we're gonna get controversial today because we got dinosaur myths. Now, I did a little I asked you guys a couple days ago about your most outrageous, doesn't matter how outrageous they were, dinosaur myths. The most famous ones you've heard about, you know that they're not that common. So I came out with a list. I did have my some myths that I wanted to talk about before, but I wanted to gather your thoughts as well, and maybe include some of those in this ranking. So basically, I'm gonna be ranking them in not how much I want them. Well, I think it's gonna be a bit of a mix. Not in how I rank different merits for each other, but it's gonna be a combination of, do I want them to be, would I want it to be true, or how true they are, like how outrageous they are and how stupid some of them are. So it's gonna be basically which ones I like and which ones I hate, and how likely they are to be. Those are gonna be the main criteria. If you didn't understand it, don't worry, I didn't either. So we're gonna be starting with axe biting. Now, this one the general public might not be very familiar with, but Allosaurus is, medium-sized theropod from the Jurassic, and being one of the apex predators of, its environment, you would think that this guy was, the main dude. He was the strongest one, and nobody was, messing with him. But, Allosaurus wasn't even the biggest theropod in his environment. So people start comparing. Well, paleontologists did their research and actually compared, for example, the bite force of each of these animals, and they came to the conclusion that actually Allosaurus doesn't have that much of a bite force. And started speculating a little bit, here, like how did this guy with a weak ass bite could take down some insanely armored dinosaurs, like for example Stegosaurus. Now, there were some crazy conclusions that we got to. For example, the axe biting. So basically, this means is that Allosaurus, I'm gonna grab my little trusty Allosaurus right here. You see its bite, kind of weak, that weak jaw, the way it would deliver its bites, the way to hunt would be to slam its jaw like this, like open it as much as it could, and it just slam it onto a target. Now, I don't have to tell you why that sounds dumb as hell. Because, first of all, your lower jaw is in the way. What if you just slam it and you just, by mistake, you just slam your lower jaw into your upper one? You just close your mouth so insanely hard that you, break your teeth or bite your tongue. It's such a dumb way to hunt as well. I don't think I've seen any other animal actually use that method of hunting. I don't know where they got that out of. I think it had something to do with their neck and how it was built. It was dumb. I hate this, basically. So, I'm going to be starting. This is so stupid. Is it not as stupid as other ones in here? So I'm going to put in C tier. T.REX scavenger. Now, this is one of those ones that were actually very popular, and they gained a lot of weight, and back in the day when certain paleontologists was very famous, still very famous, but famous for actual paleontology. But there was this theory around that T.REX was not capable of hunting its own prey. Now, an animal of this size, having such a high metabolism and having to maintain this big size, it obviously had to eat a lot. Now, that is one of the main reasons I think this theory is dumb. Like, you're such a big animal. You're basically the top predator, the big dog. Why is it that you have to scavenge? Now, there are some scavengers today. But the thing is, scavenging is not for big predators, is not their main source of food. Obviously, Every predator scavenges. If they had the chance to scavenge, of course they're gonna do it. It's just common sense for animals, Easy meal, easy food, easy, calories, So scavenging was a thing for T-Rex. However, what this theory implies is that T-Rex was solely a scavenger, and that just sounds stupid because apparently he was too big to pursue anything, so he wasn't catching anything, which is stupid because it's already been proven that actual T-Rex could chase prey pretty reliably. And also, one of the other things is that T-Rex wasn't going, of course, over very fast prey. That wasn't its main source of food, at least for the adults. So adults obviously weren't eating the same things as the young ones. Young T-Rexes were much more agile and fast, so they went to, again, after faster prey. But T-Rex, being the big bruiser, is obviously going to go after the not-so-fast ones, maybe the more armored ones, because guess what? Their teeth were made to crush bone, not to, just tear something and just go out and not like... I forget what that method is called. I forgot it right now. But, just tear and run, basically. So, T-Rex was not a scavenger. This thing was pretty capable of bringing down prey. So, T-Rex being a scavenger is one of the most idiotic things I've ever seen. F tier. Oviraptor egg thief. So, this myth right here was, very famous for, the wrong reasons. Poor Oviraptor. But, at the time, paleontologists, they can make mistakes. And, this was the most, sound outcome for what they found. And it was basically the Oviraptor fossil that was on top of some eggs. Some egg fossils. Now, it was thought, again, that this Oviraptor, which actually the name mentions it, was an egg thief. It was stealing eggs, to eat it, give it to its children, whatever. This was the main idea of what Oviraptors were like. They like to, steal eggs specifically, But, with the passage of time, more findings, much better understanding of Oviraptorosaurus, is that this Oviraptor was not a thief. It was actually a concerned parent that sadly died trying to protect his eggs. Again, this is paleontology just evolving, honestly. So, Oviraptor being an egg thief, we can't change the name today. It's going to be forever labeled as an egg thief, but he did not steal those eggs. I promise you. He is innocent. Please, let him go. So, I am glad Oviraptor is not an egg thief. So, this theory, again, I'm going to put it in B tier. I'll put it in C tier. By today's standards, nobody would believe that Oviraptor is an egg thief. Triceratops and Torosaurus. Now, this one right here is quite, I don't want to say recent, but it's most, it gained a lot of weight, and I believe this century. And it's the idea that Triceratops and Torosaurus were the same genus species. They were the same animal, basically. And this comes from the idea that Torosaurus, again, shares a lot of traits with Triceratops, but except for their frills, I believe, yes. So it's basically the frills were very similar, and because Torosaurus had this large opening on its frills, some paleontologists thought that it actually, Triceratops, as it got very old, it developed these holes and basically got deteriorate, basically. This coupled with the fact that we only had big Torosaurus, like adult Torosaurus fossils. Again, this is just science evolving, because we in fact do have Triceratops fossils of every age, almost every age. We have from embryos to little babies to juveniles to subadults to adults to even older adults. Same thing with Torosaurus. Guess what? We do have some juveniles, subadults, and adults of Torosaurus. So that was one of the main critiques, is that we do have ontogenetic evidence of both species. So they can't be the same animal. Again, these guys did lived in the same place at the same time. So, that was some validity that some paleontologists were trying to give it. But, again, the truth prevails. And we finally keep them separate once and for all. Torosaurus is not Triceratops and vice versa. So, this one is not, terrible. It's not horrible. So, I'll put it in B tier. T.REX, Stygimoloch, and Pachy. Now, this one is kind of similar to the Triceratops Torosaurus myth, but this one did go on for a long time, and there's still not a 100% census in what actually is happening. However, basically to run you down, T.REX is a pachycephalosaurid found in North America. Same thing with Stygimoloch, another pachycephalosaur, and the main man, Pachycephalosaurus. And they've been found in the same general area, same general time. So you would think, oh well, they're the same. So why are we fighting over this? The thing is, T.REX, Stygimoloch, and Pachycephalosaurus are insanely different. Like their skulls, which is basically the main thing that you look for in Pachycephalosaurus to differentiate them, is the fact that T.REX, a pachycephalosaur, has a flat head. Flat head. It has a lot of spikes, decorating its flat ass head. And it is very small. Very small. Then we got Stygimoloch, which is she has a bigger head, a bigger dome, I would want to say. A little more, I would say pointy, but still a dome. And it still had most of those spikes as well, protruding from the back of its head. Stygimoloch was a bit bigger than T.REX. And at the end, we got Pachycephalosaurus, which, has the big dome, very shiny, and a lot less of those spikes. Much more refined looking, I would say. And again, Pachycephalosaurus is much bigger than Stygimoloch. So what we can see here is either three very different Pachycephalosaurs that, they vary in size a lot and they live in the same place. Or we have an ontogenetic mystery in our hands. So basically, T.REX, what the heck did I say? T.REX, Stygimoloch, and Pachycephalosaurus are the same animal, just at different stages of life. You make your own conclusions. For me, I do believe they are the same animal. Although it would be awesome if T.REX was a different Pachycephalosaurus. Same thing with Stygimoloch. So again, the myth is that they're the same man. The myth is that they're three different animals, but it is accepted today that they're the same. So would I want them to be different animals? I actually do. I think I'm gonna put this one in S tier. I kind of want three different Pachycephalosaurids to be true. Underwater sauropods. So this myth, you might have forgotten about this one, but back in the day, in the early days of paleontology, some paleontologists would go around, find fossils. They come across a big animal, big bones. And they would be like, yo, this thing is kind of big. It's kind of, I think it's kind of a little too big to be on land. What if this thing was a little too big to be on land, so they were underwater? So that's basically this myth, is that basically, I said basically 2 times. I hate that word. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, guys. I hate it now. So, sauropods, to give you the gist of it, that these guys were too heavy to be in land, so they were underwater animals. well, I mean, not underwater, but mostly semi-aquatic animals. I will put it that way, but underwater sounds funnier. And so they use their long necks to, stick their heads, stick their little tiny heads. Did I say long heads? I think I said long necks. Their long necks, and they stick out their little heads above the water, so that their bodies, their very heavy bodies, could be, basically weightless in the water. So they would not be crushed under their own weight. Again, I can see paleontologists, kind of cooking with this. However, as paleontology evolves, we've seen that, sauropods have a very specialized anatomy, so they don't just, crush under themselves. And they are actually just land animals. Of course, I want to preface this. Sauropods could definitely go in the water, lakes and, rivers, and, go take a bath. They definitely did that, but that wasn't their main environment. They didn't live in the water like for example hippos. So sauropods, underwater sauropods. It's kind of funny, so I think I'm gonna put it in B tier. Pack hunting raptors. Now this myth right here is gonna be very controversial. A lot of people like this myth. So pack hunting raptors is not a new thing. Again, this was back when the fossils of Deinonychus were found. This bunch of Deinonychus were found near a Tenontosaurus. Tenontosaurus, big ornithopod from early Cretaceous. And, this Deinonychus, a bunch of them were found near this Tenontosaurus corpse. And, a lot of paleontologists took this, I think I may say so myself, a little too far, and deduced that these, I believe, I can't remember the exact number of Deinonychus, 2, 3, 4 Deinonychus, I believe, worked together coordinately to take down a massive Tenontosaurus. Now, I know that sounds so awesome, so badass, but, we gotta keep it grounded, man. Come on. I think the most likely outcome was that this Tenontosaurus was already dead, or almost dead, and this Deinonychus happened to stumble against this big ass meal, and they basically made a feast of this Tenontosaurus. Why did Deinonychus die? I don't know. Maybe this could be a case of the corpses washing up, getting washed very close together. I don't know. The thing is, through Deinonychus working together to bring down a huge Tenontosaurus sounds cool, but it's a little stretch when you see the actual facts laid down. So again, I do like the idea that some, not all of them, some, maybe I could count them with one hand, dromaeosaurs were capable of pack hunting. Now, I don't mean like actual wolves, like specifically like wolves, but that they could work together to bring down a bigger prey. Maybe. There's nothing 100% true or false in nature. Again, there could be some dromaeosaurs that were totally pack hunters. I mean, the best example I like to use is that, big cats are 99% of the time they are solitary animals. But, there's that 1%, the lions, they are social animals. I don't know why. Well, because of their environment, the way it works, all of that. They found the best way to live was in packs, in big families. Could some raptors do that? Maybe. We don't know. But that's the thing. We don't know. So just 100% no, 100% yes. It's not the right idea. But would I like to see have fossil evidence that raptors did pack hunt? Hell yes. That's why, pack hunting raptors are going to be S tier. Two-brained Stegosaurus. So we're going to be coming down to Stegosaurus again. We're back in the Jurassic. And Stegosaurus is quite the animal when it was first found. And, a very big animal because, gotta remember, Stegosaurus is pretty freaking huge, at least compared to a person. And it has a very tiny head. Again, just to give you an idea. This is Stegosaurus, which is huge. I'm gonna show you. I actually have a little small person here. This would be the comparative between a person and a Stegosaurus. Now you can see how big a Stegosaurus is, and you can also see their tiny head. Again, a very small head compared to their body sizes. Now, this honestly left paleontologists, scratching their heads. They're like, why such a big animal would have such a small head? This tiny head, they couldn't have held it that big of a brain. So, they did their scans and all that, they came to the conclusion that, yeah, this animal is freaking dumb. Dumb as a nut. Which is precisely the thing they thought its brains, they came to the conclusion that their brain size was that size. Yes, size of a walnut. And obviously this sparked the idea that, Stegosaurus were dumb as hell animals. And that there was no way they could be this dumb. So, basically, Stegosaurus, actually I'm going to show you too. They have a weird bone here on their hips. Right here, right? And it was they had, well, not a weird bone, but a weird opening inside this part of their bodies. Which sparked curiosity on the paleontologists. So, one of the theories was that, one brain wasn't enough for Stegosaurus to be, to function properly in, late Jurassic. So it must have had a second brain up here. Now, I can't tell you how outrageously weird that sounds. Dinosaur with two brains? What the heck? I can't remember I don't know if probably there is some freaking microbe or freaking worm that has more than one brain, but usually amniotes do not have more than one brain. And Stegosaurus of all animals to be the exception is just weird as hell. So this was an outrageous idea. Obviously, Stegosaurus do not have two brains. They only have one, and that's all they needed. They weren't dumb animals. They were, I don't consider rhinoceros today to be dumb animals. They're much more, instinct-based. They react much more, I don't know, violently, but strongly to things. Because, they are much simpler animals. So, Stegosaurus, how could they slander my boy like this? Stupid? You need two brains? Hell no. F tier. Chicken descendant of T.REX? So this is going to be the last one on the tier list. And I've got to say, it's the most dumb one we could have found. We could have even remotely believed. Even though there are some people that believe it today. And that is that chickens are descendants of T.REX. Now, are T.REX's theropods? Yes. Are chickens theropods? Yes. Do chickens come from the same lineage as T.REX? No. There is your answer. To think that chickens today, or any type of bird, could come from any of the extinct lineages of dinosaurs. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. Can't even begin to comprehend how dumb this is. Now, this was a stupid myth that was, brought to light to, introduce people, the general public, into, accepting that modern day birds are indeed dinosaurs. And, it's cool that, people are more accepting of the actual truth, which are, birds being avian dinosaurs. But avian dinosaurs are not, guess what, non-avian dinosaurs, because they're two different things. Two different lineages. So, to think that chickens could somehow, only chickens, because, it can't be, ostriches, or, cassowaries, or eagles could come from T.REX. No, it's gotta be chickens. It's so stupid. Which brings me to the tier list, where I'm gonna shift everything up. I am doing this so I can put chicken T-Rex all the way into F tier.